Hello, we are going to pick up where we were left off. Remember when we were talking about Sammy Stringer and how he was like walking funny, like in the yard and missed, what's her name, Luther's yard, and he was walking like an ostrich? So we're going to pick up there today and find out what indeed he was doing. But it was maybe not so funny if Sammy Stringer was going to think he was an ostrich forever. That would be bad, even for someone I did not like. Then, when I saw Crinkles run under a bush, I knew that what it was the truth. Sammy Stringer was trying to catch Crinkles. Why he was doing it with the big red oven mitts must have been a secret cat catching reason. If Crinkles didn't like Mrs. Luther's orange cast, it didn't seem that he would be happy to be grabbed by big flapping red oven mittens. Go left! He's right there on your left, shouted Mrs. Luther. She was waving her arms and jumping up and down at the top of her steps, which is maybe something you should not do with a big orange cast on your leg. Crinkles ran right past Sammy, through the fence, and into our yard. I could tell he was going to exactly the place where he was not supposed to go. I was right about the cast and jumping because the next time I looked at the steps, Mrs. Luther was lying on them and Sammy was trying to help her up. She stood up and shooed Sammy's help away. So let's take a moment to think about how Sammy is actually being very kind to Mrs. Luther right now. She's in a cast and he is there spending time with her. So as you can tell, Just Grace or Grace is noticing that Sammy is there to help. So hopefully she'll start getting some of that empathy superpowers kicking in for Sammy because I'm kind of getting sick of her putting him down all the time. I mean, as a reader, as a member of the audience of this book. So I think that's what the author's trying to do. All the fun was over. Crinkles was gone, Mrs. Luther was limping like normal, and Sammy was not being ostrich boy. I ran downstairs and found Crinkles just where I knew he would be. I would make a good cat detective. Crinkles was sitting on Augustine Duprat's table, drinking milk from one of her very fancy French teacups, the ones that always make me feel special and nervous to touch because they look like they could break into a million pieces really easy. Crinkles is very upset. He jumped in the window and wouldn't stop meowing, so I gave him some milk to calm him down. I think his fear of Mrs. Luther is getting worse, Augustine Duprat said. I am getting very worried. She petted Crinkles behind his ears. Crinkles did not look upset at all. He looked very happy. I told her all about Sammy, Mrs. Luther, and the big red oven mitts. This is very strange indeed, said Augustine Duprat, and she picked up Crinkles and held him close. She didn't say anything else, but it seemed like maybe Augustine Duprat was in love with Crinkles too. And here's a picture that goes with that. That's so cute. He must be kind of easy to love. So now we are here. The bad thing Augustine Duprat told me. Augustine Duprat told me she had to leave the next day on an emergency trip to France, and that it could not be helped. But the sad truth was, she would be gone for 2 whole weeks. She would not be around to help with any part of my big idea. Do you guys remember what her big idea is? Do you remember that she's going to take like a picture of Crinkles and put him all over and like write postcards with him, like that he's sending Mrs. Luther postcards? Very cute. Not the taking photo of Crinkles part, but the blowing up the picture part and not the gluing part, nothing. I tried to talk to her about what to do next, but she was not being a good listener like she normally is. She was putting all her clothes into little piles and doing lots of French sighing that had nothing to do with me. Crinkles. I'm sorry, I'm kind of tired tonight. The story's not boring, I'm just a little bit sleepy. As you can see, I'm in my pajamas. Crinkles went and sat right in the middle of Augustine Duprat's suitcase, like he was hoping that she was going to take him to France with her. But she said she would not do a thing like that, even though she would miss him. I could tell Crinkles was hoping that she was lying to me. He wanted to go anywhere Augustine Duprat was going to go. He was in love. Next section. Taking the photo of Crinkles. For any of you who have a cat, and you know who you are, taking pictures of cats is very challenging. Cats are kind of like very independent creatures. Today was a beautiful sunny day. It was perfect outside weather to take a picture of Crinkles. And that was too bad because Augustine Duprat, I'm so sorry, guys, my big helper, was gone. When you are going to France, you have to get up and leave really early in the morning. After breakfast, which was not French toast because Mom said she was tired of it, and so we had to have pancakes instead, I went out to find Crinkles. He was walking around in our front yard. I was happy to see that he was not on his way to France with Augustine Duprat, but I was happy about how he was not being at all helpful with my project. I was not happy about that, excuse me. No matter how hard I tried and talked to him in a nice, not mad voice, he was still not a good photo subject. Every time I pulled him in a perfect sit-up pose, the second I stepped back to take a photo, he'd lie down and roll over all over the ground all the way, like he does when he wants to be petted. He would not stay sitting up. And then, even after I petted him for maybe 10 minutes, he still wanted more pets. I cannot believe that he is that lonely and misses Augustine Duprat already. He is a very needy cat. This is the kind of thing you say when you're talking about someone who takes up all your energy and never seems full. So when you call someone is needy, that means they take up all your energy and they never seem full enough. Finally, I had to wait for him to stand up and then take his picture. When he was walking, it was not excellent, but he still looked nice when the sun shining on his fur. He is a very nice-looking cat. In photography language, someone who looks good in photos gets to be called photogenic. Crinkles is photogenic. So here's the pose that she wanted, and here's the pose that she got. And we are going to stop there for today on page 73. So try to think about ways that you can relate to this story. Maybe you're photogenic, or maybe you don't like being in pictures and you squirm like a cat. Or maybe you notice that Sammy Stringer is actually a good person. So these are the kind of things that you're reaching out to in the text and trying to make connections, okay? All right, go ahead and get started on your reflection.